Hey, it's Avi from JustWriteMusic.com. Today, I want to show you how you can instantly add more color and expression to your music using extended chords. Seriously, this will level up your music. Stick around. An extended chord is a chord that has more chord tones than just our regular major, minor, or seventh chord. We're talking super fun advanced harmony stuff that's really not hard to start using at all. I swear, I'll prove it to you. To start off, I want to make sure that we know what we're doing and how to build these chords in a simple and practical way. So let's do a quick review of building triads. A triad is a 3-note chord that's at the heart of all major and minor chords. We call the actual notes or pitches that make up these chords chord tones. But there are lots of notes, right? Some with sharps, some with flats, some without. What do we do? This is where scales come in. A scale is simply a series of notes in a certain order that act as a kind of map for the key that we're trying to play in. A scale will tell you how to order the notes, what spaces or intervals go between them, and what chords we get when we start stacking them together. The major scale is the big deal here because that's the one we compare all the others to. So if we're in the key of C major, we're gonna use the notes and chords of the C major scale to make music. Notes and chords that fall within the scale are called diatonic notes, or chords. Cool, now we know the actual context of what we're playing chords in, right? But how do we figure out the actual notes of the chords? My favorite way to teach this is also the simplest. I call it the every other note method. Triads and beyond, any chord, are built by stacking an interval called a third. We stack these thirds on top of the root of the chord, or the letter name of the chord. An interval refers to the distance between two notes, and it's incredibly helpful for writing or playing music. There's two kinds of thirds that we need to be aware of today. Those are major thirds and minor thirds. The best way to think about this is to look at the major and minor scales. Play the first and third notes on both. Notice how the former example was a little bit brighter, that was the major scale, and the latter example was a little bit darker. That's because we have the minor third, which is a half step closer to us than the major third, which sounds a little bit brighter. This is a great thing to come back to if you need to remind yourself of the difference. Whether or not there's a major third or a minor third first will actually tell us the quality of the chord. If we have a major third followed by a minor third, we have a major chord. If we have a minor third followed by a major third, we have a minor chord. There are other types of triads, but we don't really need to talk about them right now. We'll talk about those another time. When we're stacking thirds like this, what we're actually doing is taking the note we're on, skipping the one next to it, and using the one after that. Then we repeat that process for the note that we just added, and boom, there's a triad. Hence, every other note. Right? That's the whole thing. That was the thing from before. Thinking about building chords like this and building triads is so much simpler and easier. I did this in music school to get my music degree, and I graduated magna cum laude. It's common, if not mandatory, to refer to all of the chord tones in reference to the root or the letter name of the chord. The fancy pants way of saying this is we're using the intervallic relation from the root. Yeah. This is what people mean when they say the third, the fifth, or the seventh of a chord. All right, let's build a really, really quick C chord just so we can kind of start using this stuff before we jump into like the crazy stuff. By crazy stuff, I mean awesome stuff. First, we're starting on C, then we're skipping the note next to it, right? That would be D. We're skipping D, going to E. Awesome. Now we're skipping the note next to E, that would be F, no more F, but we're gonna go to G, C, E, G. That is our C triad. Let's do that on the guitar, let's see how that sounds. We have a C, right? Skipping D, no D, no open, but we need the E, so that would be the second fret. Cool, and then we would need a G, no F, skipping that F, no F, but we're taking that G right there. Perfect. There it is, C, E, G, we did it. Good job. If we wanted to go one step further for a seventh chord, we would skip the A and use a B. In this case, it would be the open B string. And this would give us a C major 7 chord. Oh, wow. I need a moment. And if we make it a B flat, we would make it a C dominant 7th chord. Ooh. Got some places to move there. Like there. That wasn't too bad, right? Let me know in the comments. Now let's actually start adding extensions to our chords in our music. Like we talked about in the beginning of the video, an extended chord is a chord that uses more than just the 7th scale degree. We go further beyond that. And like how we got to the 7th scale degree, right? We skipped the A and went to B, we're gonna keep doing that third stacking in order to keep finding these new chord tones. The formula is exactly the same, right? Just stacking those thirds, every other note. Once we find the chord we're looking for, we got that D, we just pop it right on top. Done. See how easy that was? I told you it was easy. I told you! There's 3 kinds of extensions. There's the 9ths, there's the 11ths, and there's the 13ths. These higher numbers represent chord tones that are added above the octave, or 8, right? 8. Octa. Etymology. So if 8 is the same thing as our 1, right? It's just an octave up, that means 9 is 2, and 11 is 4, and 13 is 6. With these extensions, we're basically able to take any note in a scalar key and just throw it on top of a chord, a major or minor chord, or even 7th chord, and it's gonna sound good most likely. Yeah, seriously. We can also sharp or flat some of these extensions for even more varied sound. The most common alterations you're going to find are going to be the flat 9, the sharp 11, and the flat 13th. That's the equivalent of a flat 2, a sharp 4, or a flat 6. There are 2 ways that we can add these extended chord tones to our major, minor, or 7th chord. And it's the lead sheet that's going to tell us. The lead sheet is like when it says the letter name and then the type of chord, like C, then it's just C major, G minor, GM, right? That stuff. The first kind looks like this. It has the chord root and quality and then the number right next to it. This indicates that we should play all of the chord tones up into and including the 11th. So that's the root, the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, the 9th, the 11th, 6 chord tones. In this case, that would be C, E, G, B, D, F. A 5th of a chord, G in this case, actually plays a little bit more of a structural role rather than an expressive one. When you encounter chords like this, feel free to leave the 5th out. The other way that you're gonna see these extended chords looks like this. And this is when you have the chord root, right, the letter name, with a add, ADD, and then the number. This means we're literally just taking the extended chord tone, in this case an add 9, and we're just plopping it right on top of the chord. We're just get it on there. So we're only adding the extended chord that it's telling us to add, and we don't need to add anything aside from that. Okay, so now we know what extended chords are, we know how to build them, we know how to plop them on top of our regular chords. Let's get to actually voicing extended chords. So I'm going to be using the guitar, obviously, but this really will work on any harmonic instrument. By far, the easiest way to get started with these on guitar is to just start modifying open chords. Let's take that C add 9 that I literally just did super fast. We're going to take our open C chord, and we need to find the 9th. And we just went over that the 9th is D, or 2 above the octave. The octave is right here. C, E, G, C again. So all we have to do is go up a whole step to find the D. So instead of having your first finger on the 1st fret, just take your pinky, plop it down on the 3rd fret of the B string, C add 9. That easy. All we had to do was change 1 note. That's it. Move 1 finger. Okay, now let's build an E minor 9. This doesn't have an add, so we need to make sure that we include the 7th and the 3rd and the root. Screw the 5th. We don't even need the 5th, but we'll add it anyway. We're gonna start with our normal E minor. So first thing we need to do, we need to find the octave. So the octave is right here, E, B, E. We're actually going to move that to the 4th fret because our F sharp in this case is going to be our 9th. We're gonna take our 4th finger, put that on the 4th fret over there. We're gonna take our 1st finger, put that where our 2nd finger was. Like that. So far we have the root, the 5th, the 9th, and we need our 3rd, and that's gonna be G, right? E, no F, G. So we're just gonna use that open G chord, that open G string. Now we need to find our 7th. Really easy way to find the 7th is to just go a step below whatever note you're starting from, right? Because above the octave and a step below is just a 7th. That's D, and the easiest place to put a D in this position is on the 3rd fret of the B string, the one we actually just used for our C add 9. Beautiful. Oh my god, I love this chord. Spread voiced chords are another one of my favorite way to voice extended chords. A spread voice chord is exactly what it sounds like. The chord tones are spread apart from each other rather than super close and stacked together like we were talking about this whole time. That E minor 9 is actually a fantastic example of a spread voiced chord. We have the low E going to the B. That's a 5th, right? From E to B. Then we're doing the same thing, B to F sharp. That's another 5th, right? And then now we have something stacked together right on top, that F sharp and G. That sounds good, especially because that's the only thing stacked right now. They're right next to each other. Everything else is so far apart, it's great. And then we have the D on there. It's another 5th away from the G, followed by that high E, which in this case, I wanna keep out. right? It's all spread out. It's got the whole spectrum covered. It's great. It's great. I'm gonna live here for a sec. Here's another example. In this case, we have a seventh between the bass note and the next note. That's like a G major 9 or something. Finally, we can use the context of the song or progression in order to determine what we use. The extended chords were born from suspensions. This is when the chord tone from one chord is played over another chord. An extended chord is essentially saying we're going to play the note from the previous chord and we're going to play the note that should be there, that it should be suspending. That's why we needed to find another name for all this, another number for all this. We can take chord tones from the surrounding chords of whatever we're working on and use one of those to add some extensions and at the same time add some solid voice leading. Listen to the transition between this C major and G add 11. All we're doing here is moving from our regular open C to a regular G, except we're keeping our first finger on the C here, on the first fret of the B string or the second string, creating that G add 11. Without it, it's just a regular G chord. But we use the chord tone from the C to give us that added 11th. And if we resolve it, get a classic suspension. Isn't that a gorgeous transition? There you go, that's it. That's all you need to know about extended chords in order to really start using them with intention. We did a quick review of building triads, so we know how to build these chords. Then we added the extensions. We went over what the extensions were and how to add them to the chords. Finally, we went over some voicing tips to get these chords sounding natural in your music, using the stuff you already know how to use. What do you think? Did you fall in love with these chords like I did? Or maybe you're sitting there thinking, dude, get a grip. Let me know in the comments. Now that we have a solid understanding of extended chords, how to build them and how to use them, let's get them going in an original song all your own. And I want to help you start it. I put together a free PDF that'll help you do just that. I call it the 3-step song starter, and it'll have you writing in just a couple minutes. It's crazy. It's easy, man. It's literally just one page because I know you want to get the information, learn it, and use it as soon as possible. So it's just one page, really, really simple. Head to justwritemusic.com/songstarter. There's a link down in the doobly-doo. Thanks so much for watching and for hanging out with me today. Like, comment, and subscribe if you like the video, or you can dislike it or whatever, you know, I can take it, it's fine. I'm Avi from justwritemusic.com, and don't forget to be awesome.